From the Alex Trebek stage at Sony Picture Studios, this is Inside Jeopardy!
Hello and welcome back to Inside Jeopardy, your exclusive and official podcast destination for all things happening in the world of Jeopardy! I'm Sarah Foss, and I'm joined today once again by Buzzy Cohen. Welcome, Buzzy.
Sarah, I cannot believe you are on your feet because Jeopardy honors, TOC, it has been a busy time here at Sony, and especially for all of you at Jeopardy.
Yes, and just last week we, of course, taped the Jeopardy Invitational, the first ever, so I can't believe I'm on my feet either, I will be honest, but what makes it so great is that I'm exhausted, but I'm exhausted from having these incredible experiences with our just out-of-this-world contestants. You know, the Jeopardy Invitational, the JIT, as Michael Davies likes to call it, was really his idea.
Yeah.
And I think he just liked the way that JIT sounded. But it really proved to be such a wonderful, wonderful idea. Getting to see 27 Jeopardy greats back on the stage, some who hadn't been here in over a decade, you know, some in more recent years. And we put this field together not really knowing what it would be like, how it would play out. And wow, it did not disappoint. And so that's exciting. But even more exciting, I think, for people is that was our last tournament. We just taped it. Of course, we're in the throes of Tournament of Champions. Then you're going to see the JIT. And then we are going to go back to regular shows. I was looking at a calendar, and we last taped regular shows on May 19th.
Wow.
So Lucas Partridge, way back on May 19th, that's not when his shows aired, of course, but that's when we taped it. That's when he became a 3-game winner, and he's just waiting in the wings. He will officially be our longest reigning champion. I'm sure not the way that Lucas had hoped to be a reigning champion, but he's, of course, coming back when we get into the studio, our next tape days. He'll be back along with a lot of other wonderful people who have just been waiting in that pool and are getting their chance to get on the Alex Trebek stage for the first time. I know everyone is so looking forward to that, but I have to say that I know in Jeopardy airtime, JAT, it's an emotional roller coaster in the Tournament of Champions quarterfinals. Everyone's talking about the games. We're looking forward to highlighting those, Buzzy, in today's pod. And we also are going to speak with our co-head writers, Billy Weiss and Michelle Loud. We've had them on the pod before, but we really wanted to bring them in for more of a behind-the-scenes look at the process that goes into writing these tournaments, specifically the Tournament of Champions. A lot of people having a lot of commentary about, that they were stocking up on tricky Final Jeopardies for the TOC. So looking forward to talking with them. But first, we're going to take a look back at this week in Jeopardy history. And this week, we're going back to season 39.
Stephen Webb had another big lead today, 20,400. Did he come up with the correct response in final? Who is Charles II? No, but you're a little closer in the timeline. This was the glorious Protestant Revolution. This is William of Orange invading. So you're going to lose, you didn't have much room to maneuver, just $150. You have $20,250 today and a 4-day total of $100,881. He's into 6 digits of winnings, and he'll be back on Monday. We'll see you then.
That's right. It was almost 1 year ago, March 10th, 2023, when Stephen Webb, a 3-game Jeopardy champion at that point, returned to the Alex Trebek stage for a chance to win his 4th game. His run was broken up, of course, by our high school reunion tournament, which, as you'll remember, gave us TOC competitor Justin Bolson, who we'll be seeing later this week. But that break did not slow Stephen down. He came back, he cruised into a runaway win during his 4th game, and he went on to become an 8-game Jeopardy champion. Of course, Stephen did return this week for the Tournament of Champions, and we're going to discuss his game later on in the pod.
Can't wait to discuss it. What a great champion. This Tournament of Champions field is unbelievable, and it's just like, it blows my mind.
Well, we kicked off the week with our second quarterfinal matchup featuring the return of 21-game champ Chris Pannulo. We had Ben Goldstein and Jared Watson. What a game this was. Chris appeared to be unstoppable until Jared found the first daily double to tie Chris heading into Double Jeopardy. Then Jared seemed to control the board, finding both daily doubles and taking a commanding lead. Chris tried his best to get back into contention, but he was unable to recover as Jared cruised into a runaway win, securing a spot in the semifinals and defeating who many thought was going to take it all, Chris Pannulo.
A runaway in the Tournament of Champions, and especially against someone who's as strong and had as many runaways as Chris Pannulo, is serious business. I mean, Jared really showed that he belongs on that stage among, the best of the best.
Yeah, you don't expect to see runaways in the TOC. Now we've had 2 quarterfinal games up until this point. Emily Sands, of course, had a runaway on Friday's game. It's also interesting to note that both she and Jared were 3-game winners during their original runs.
Well, there is sort of an interesting bit of trivia, if you will, about the Tournament of Champions, where there are exceptions, Amy being one, James being another, but often the top seed player does not win the Tournament of Champions. So I think sometimes people come in and think, oh, Chris Pannulo's got this, but there is something a little bit different about the Tournament of Champions. Some people rise to it, and some people struggle with the tournament format. So very exciting, though. Love an underdog. I do want to shout out my shout out that I got this game.
Yes, you got a shout out during the show.
It made me sound very nice. It also made it sound like I just hang out outside of Sony all the time, waiting to give people Jeopardy advice, which is only partially true.
Well, we had the Buzzy shout out and we had the Sam Buttrey cameo.
Yes.
Sam, knowing he was going to be participating in JID, he came to see some games, support some friends, and maybe pick up some tips. And on the last clue of Double Jeopardy in this game, Ken said, "I'll say it for Sam. Bring it." So love to have Sam Buttrey in the audience. This trend of the host photos, we really highlighted some of the funny ones at Honors, and it is continuing. Chris Pannulo, always kind of known for his thumbs up, so he and Ken did a pretty classic thumbs up. Ben did a fun Wonder Twins Activate kind of thing, and Jared did air guitar, which is, he did that on the blue carpet, if you saw that on YouTube, and, I'm sure Michael would love that. Jared on the axe, maybe, perhaps. He's also a great sport. Jared went on Reddit right after his game to share his thoughts. He said, "To all of those that are shocked that this happened, none of you are more shocked than me. Make no mistake, I prepared harder for this than anything I've ever done, and I wanted to play the best I possibly could, but I still could have never expected this." And he went on to say that Chris was also nothing but gracious and supportive to him all week going forward, so the love continues.
One thing we noticed on that blue carpet was just everyone was so kind, so nice. Everyone really was supportive of each other, happy to be here, and fans of each other, and that, Jared's comment just goes to show that.
Ken caught up with the players right after Jared's winning moment. Let's hear what they had to say about this dramatic game.
Did that just happen?
Let me ask you this. Was it the 70s guitar gods that gave you the power?
Oh, yeah.
That's
That got me all the way into Double Jeopardy right away.
It did seem like a bit of a turning point. Just a very, very even game, separated by, I guess, the buzzer and those daily doubles. Did you feel like you lost your buzzer touch at one point in the second round, Chris?
Just the 70s rock bands, and that was all it took. It was 3. He went 3 questions, and then boom, daily doubles, and I was dead.
Yeah, like once he had both those, and he made kind of big, sensible wagers. Not enough to blow a lead, but enough to improve his lot each time. That turned out to be the right strategy. Had you thought about daily doubles coming into this, Jared?
Well, sure. Daily doubles are kind of what the whole game hinges on, really. And so I was obviously looking for them, and luckily I got them right.
Chris, you had a knack for finding daily doubles during your run. Were you looking along the same lines there? Did you think you knew where they were?
The real killer was there were 2 in the 400 left, and I went to the grammatical one instead of Disney, and big turning point. Probably should have gone with Disney. Always go with Disney.
You would have known Space Mountain.
Unfortunately, I would have known it.
All right, moving on to Tuesday's game with Hannah Wilson, David Sibley, and Youngshin Wong. David got out to a strong lead with the help of a $2,800 true daily double, but Hannah took control of the board early in Double Jeopardy with a $7,000 correct daily double. Then she immediately found the last daily double and wagered $10,000, but was incorrect to hand that lead back to David. Hannah able to work her way back to just $5,000 behind David despite that big loss. All 3 players were correct in final, though, so it was David who secured the win. I think my favorite David moment, and I know he was preparing for this because he may have said it in the rehearsal as well, but it doesn't happen unless you get a daily double.
Yeah.
And David said, as Salt and Peppa would say, push it all in. And Ken, of course, joked, you might be the first Episcopal priest to quote Salt and Peppa.
I just want to give a shout out to Hannah for losing $10,000 and still being incredibly close. But I also want to give a shout out if Hannah had hit that daily double, finishing with $33,000, David, without either of the daily doubles in Double Jeopardy still keeps it from being a runaway. So the two of them, really strong play all around. Very impressive.
Yeah, and Young Shin went on Reddit after the game to talk about just how strong they were. You know, he said, David was training for a 1.5 years Rocky style. Hannah is way faster at word puzzles than anyone I know. I at least made Ken laugh, entertained the audience for 30 minutes, and got to play O'Brien's trivia with TOC champs, so I got to have a great experience. This is another fun thing that's happening with this tournament. O'Brien's is having some epic battles. I saw people have been posting on Reddit, seeing people from last week that they're, ooh, does that mean that person is participating in JIT? I love it. I love that we have this place like O'Brien's on Wednesday night to bring out the Jeopardy greats and
the nerd
see if
cheers.
maybe they're competing. David, of course, also went on Reddit to talk about how relieved he was to be playing against Hannah and Young Shin, not because he felt he had an edge, but because it meant that he got to play on stage with two people who quickly became his friends the day before. Well, heading into Wednesday's matchup between Nick Casconi, Jake D'Arruda, and Yogesh Raut, another great game with all three players looking dominant at different moments. Jake ended the Jeopardy round with an impressive $14,400 thanks to a 6,600 True Daily Double. That was the highest score we've seen in the Jeopardy round all season. So at that point, you think, this is Jake's. But no, then Nick finds the first Daily Double in Double Jeopardy to take the lead. But similar to yesterday's game with Hannah Wilson, he found the second Daily Double on the very next clue, wagers $10,000, and loses the lead on a very tough clue. Yogesh then catches fire. He ends the round with 17 correct responses in that round alone and takes a strong lead heading into final, which was a triple stumper. And Yogesh, with a minimal wager, gets the win.
Yeah, to quote Nick Casconi quoting Michael Scott, not superstitious, but a little stitious. These $10,000 wagers kind of have me shaken on that second Daily Double. I don't know, we try to play Jeopardy like by the numbers and not have too much of that, but there's something in the air in this TOC.
Yeah, I have to point out Yogesh's stats because they were impressive. He runs two categories, women in lit and British actors and actresses. We've only seen one person run a category in the TOC so far. That was David Sibley, but no one has run two. 26 correct responses, 0 incorrect, no daily doubles, and yet a $26,800 Coriat and 52 attempts with no daily doubles.
That's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And I have to go back to Jake's interview. I'm sure people saw it, but it caught me so off guard. He joked that he used his winnings on what anyone under the age of 25 would do: sports gambling, women, and alcohol. And by that, of course, I spent $20 on a college football pick'em that went horribly wrong, $20 to take my date and I to the top of Gillette Stadium Lighthouse, and several packs of hard cider to get through the horrible Patriots season that I endured. I love it. Jake coming up big with the comedy. I know his market, WBZ, is loving all of it. Ken did have a chance to check in with the players after this game. It was a roller coaster. Let's take a listen to what they had to say.
It's just a remarkable game because there were points when it looked like each of you three might have the things sewn up. Yogesh, you really turned it on with a series of high-value clues in the second round. That second round was great for you. What happened?
I think I must have just been a British theater fan in a previous life.
Tough run of those two daily doubles back to back.
Would have been cool, though.
I mean, it happened to Hannah in yesterday's game as well. You find them back to back, but that second one was tougher.
Titanic curse strikes again.
Moving on to Thursday's game with Luigi de Guzman, Kevin Bell, and Javeria Zahir. Another exciting game. Javeria was lights out in the Jeopardy round. 15 correct responses, a $4,000 True Daily Double. She ends the round with $11,400. She continues her strong play in Double Jeopardy, but Luigi was able to find both daily doubles, allowing him to stay close behind the lead heading into final. There, the two of them both wagered nearly everything, but it was Luigi who was correct, and he gets an exciting come-from-behind win that took a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah, I guess, Luigi was not worried about the curse of the $10,000 second daily double in Double Jeopardy. Way to keep yourself in the game. But Juveria, I think, really captured our hearts, coming from second chance, champions wildcard, and now an incredible play in the TOC.
Well, and we didn't get a chance to talk much about Kevin Bell, but Kevin certainly made his mark with us at Honors as Whiskey Ginger.
Yeah.
Kevin might be thinking at this point, maybe Whiskey Ginger should have played. I don't know. I don't know.
I would pay money for, a special drag. Maybe it's a RuPaul Drag Race Jeopardy crossover event where there's just a drag tournament.
Well, we've also talked about, Jeopardy pub trivia and a possibility of that happening in the future. And I want Whiskey Ginger hosting any event that we do in Washington, D.C. That's what I know for sure. Our audience stood up and gave Juveria a round of applause after the game. Many in the audience, of course, fellow contestants, but I think the sentiment from everyone was just that regardless of what happened in that game, Juveria had definitely proven that she was a contender. During the interview, Juveria had talked about, you don't usually get to be Cinderella at 41, but this is a dream come true. And she followed up on Reddit last week saying, I will never forget the last few months, and although my buzzer has turned into a pumpkin, I wouldn't trade any of it for the world. Anything worth trying is also worth failing at. And all we can do is be brave and take chances and give it our best. Oh, I love those words.
Amazing.
And I think that in the face of defeat, that's what Juveria has to say about her experience. That's why anyone who's listening who hasn't taken that anytime test,
take the test.
Take it. Be brave. Take the chance. You could be on the stage at the next TOC. Our players continued to show great support for each other. As soon as this game ended, Ken joked that he didn't want to break up the love fest, but let's take a listen to how they were feeling after the big game.
I loved not knowing who was going to be in the lead going into Final Jeopardy, and Juveria did what it took to keep the lead, which was impressive. Well done.
These two guys are incredible, and all you can do is buzz your heart out.
You were very evenly matched, but the difference was the daily doubles. You found both of them in the second round.
Yeah.
You were looking for them.
Yeah, that's honestly a big difference from the first time you saw me here. I was a little less organized then, and I really thought about the wagering, and it's odd that it pays off. I feel really bad. I feel like all Canada's going to hate me now.
How many people could there possibly be in Canada?
I mean, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Canada. I really am. But
Me too.
I feel like Juveria is going to be on a stamp, no matter how that game wound up. It was fantastic play. And Juveria, congratulations on a remarkable run.
Yeah.
For Jeopardy Season 40.
And we closed out the week with our sixth quarterfinal matchup between Stephen Webb, Brian Henniger, and Josh Zack. Brian and Josh battled it out in the Jeopardy round, but Brian really turned it up in Double Jeopardy with 13 correct responses, finishing the round with the lead. Unfortunately, Stephen was not able to make it to final, and both Brian and Josh were incorrect, but that minimal wager from Brian allowed him to take the win, to which he exclaimed, I feel like $1 million. Another great reaction from Brian. He's really living up to his Best Celebration Award. Maybe he can win it 2 times in a row. And, in the post game, it was funny. Brian said, Ken, I'm not sure you get to hear this often, but you are just an amazing MC and incredible host of this program. Aww. And Josh joked, Brian, you already advanced. You don't need to suck up.
Never hurts, though.
It
never hurts. It was very sweet. I mean, these scores, heading into final, tough break for Stephen not to get to play. Brian and Josh doesn't look like a lot, but it really speaks to how when the TOC material just gets taken up that level, it can really be a big, big challenge. And I think, Stephen was just trying to get himself back in there, but still incredible gameplay by all three of these.
Yeah, and as you talked about, just the level of play. Stephen coming in as an 8-game champion.
Yep.
It's just quite something.
It's no joke.
And now it's time for our host chat. I got to hear a lot of great responses over the last few weeks, but this time we're going to hear from Ken. What were you doing before you went on Jeopardy?
Like today, I was eating lunch. I had some kimchi. I apologize to the contestants. I was a computer programmer before I came on the show, but I wasn't very good at it. I certainly wasn't very happy at it. Every night I'd come home from work and bore my wife with, I'm gonna go to law school. I should take the foreign service exam. I had all these ideas of what to do with my life. And as it happened, I tried out for a game show, and 20 years later, here we are. It's a very unusual journey, but I'm delighted to be here. Welcome to Jeopardy!
All right, and now it's time to welcome to the pod, straight from the Jeopardy library, our co-head writers, Billy Weiss and Michelle Loud. Buzzy asked me earlier, how am I still standing? I have to know, how are the two of you still standing over the past few weeks that we have had?
Unhasting, unresting. That is our motto.
I'm actually sitting right now, so let's shatter the illusion that I'm trying to stand anymore.
Well, in Jeopardy airtime, we find ourselves through 6 quarterfinal games of the Tournament of Champions. I know we have revealed that we have, in fact, already shot JIT, but taking you back to Jeopardy airtime, the Tournament of Champions. I know people so often want to know what goes into writing a tournament, particularly the Tournament of Champions, versus the regular game material, and just how you guys have had to go through this very different season.
One thing about tournaments of champions or anything with returning players is we always have to worry about not asking them things they've been asked before. We have very much internalized the voice of Rocky Schmidt, who was a senior producer for many, many years, and so we just have this terror of the winner of the Tournament of Champions getting a microphone in front of his or her face and saying, "How did you do it?" And saying, well, when they asked me that question about Bulvania, that they asked me the same one 5 years ago, that was perfect. That was made it a slam dunk. So we have to do a lot of checking, and that's one thing that goes into it. And that may come out on the air in that sometimes things get worded a little roundabout way, because you can do the Godfather clue, but you can't mention Marlon Brando in this clue. So that's one thing we have to take into account.
Yeah, you have to thread the needle of making the material more challenging because the players are a different level, but you still want the material to be accessible to the people at home. It doesn't seem impressive when they answer things you've never heard of, so it's a little bit of a tightrope walk there between what we've done before, not repeating it, not repeating what we've done in the regular season, leveling up.
Well, and we've thrown huge amounts of contestants at you. Obviously, we've had multiple Champions wildcard competitions, all with 27 folks. Then we had the Tournament of Champions with 27, then the Jeopardy Invitational with 27, and oftentimes, you're asking me, where's the list? We have a lot of work to do. Can you please get me the list? And then we're operating off of who's said yes and who's confirmed, and so it's a dance. We've been dancing all season long, I would say.
Yeah, it definitely is. But we do our best. But it's a joy writing for strong contestants. It just frees you up a lot.
Now, I don't know if you've heard, but so far in the TOC, people are saying that during the writer's strike, you were busy coming up with difficult, tricky Final Jeopardies. That's their takeaway from the first 6 games of the quarterfinals.
Oh no, we didn't do any writing during the writer's strike, but nice try, guys.
Yes.
There was a lot of chit-chat on the picket line, but we were absolutely forbidden from writing or stockpiling material at that time. But when we came back, boy, feet to the fire, typing as fast as we could. Yeah, our little feverish brains worked as quickly as we could. It was not a lot of time to get this stuff all written and researched and prepared for air.
So I know we've talked with you before about how, a triple stumper and final is not really what you're going for. You want it to be material that's at the right level. But when you get a triple stumper from these TOC, is there a little bit of gratification that these people who have won 21, 8 games, 12 games, or, won a Champions wildcard that, you kind of got them?
Those are not really people to me up there, Buzzy. So I can't say that anything that happens to them gratifies me emotionally or the opposite.
I still feel like a triple stumper and final is sad. You want somebody to get it. You really do. It's really much more satisfying if at least one person gets it.
Well, and I think when I talked about the tricky Final Jeopardies, I was not in any way alluding that you guys were writing during the strike, but that you don't go into it trying to trick people. It's really, the goal is to have it be challenging. And I think in a perfect world, sometimes we say 2 people get it, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, one or two are both fine with us. I think Davies has a preference between those, but I can't remember what it is, honestly. Sorry, Michael.
I think his preference is 2, then 1,
yes,
then 3.
That's what I think as well, yes.
So one question that I do have is, The TOC format has changed from the 2-day total point affair, no longer having the wildcards, to this kind of straight knockout and first to 3 format. Has that changed how you approach the finals at all when you don't know how many of these boards are going to be played versus knowing, okay, we're going to get these 2 games out in the finals?
Doesn't really change it because the way the tournament is written, we might have somewhat harder material that we hold back for the finals, but there's a lot of random selection of games that goes on, and so we are not really in a position to maneuver the final 2 games or final however many games it might be. So there's a certain amount of randomness that goes into that, as I guess there should be.
Well, when word came that most likely we were going to head into a strike, the worst thought was that maybe you would not be with us for as much as 18 weeks. And as it turned out, it was a very long time. What's it like to come back? I just haven't really had a chance to talk to you guys about the experience of being on the picket lines for so long and then coming back.
It turns out that if you're a Jeopardy writer on a picket line, you are a little bit of a celebrity. Who knew that if you were playing picket line bingo and you got to meet a Jeopardy writer, this turned out to be a very big deal, much to our surprise and delight. And we met people who had no idea that we were in the guild. And we got the word out there that, yes, in fact, we have been in the guild so long, since the early 90s, longer than most shows have been around, or most of the people on the picket line have been alive. And it was lovely to have the support of our viewers and our fans. And it was lovely to have the support of our fellow writers in the union. Of course, when we came home, and we were very, very happy to all of us be able to come back home, because this is our home, our lovely producer Lisa Brofman and our friends in the clearance department and the researchers decorated the library for us. It was, October. They put up fake spider webs and spiders and mice to show you've been gone so long that everything's gotten dusty and cobwebby. And they put up a big banner that said, "Welcome back, writers," but writers was misspelled to show how much they needed us, how much they loved us, how much they missed us. And we had a fun party in the library and hugs all around.
Well, we know that for Billy, Jeopardy contestants are not people.
Except for you, Bart.
I was going to say I'll count myself among them.
Okay.
Yeah. But, you guys have a front row seat to this. What's it like to see your material, especially this, what I consider extra special material, come to life?
I think it's always delightful to see your material play, whether it's a regular game or a tournament. And it's great to see laughter in response to a funny clue. It's great to see people, racing on the buzzer to get it. And it's also nice to see a little bit of a slower reaction and a thought like, ooh, or the kind of, thinking about it in the daily double process. And we can see in real time what they're writing down in final. So you see sort of like the ghostly apparition of the words appearing on the screen. Oh, are they going to, no, they're writing the wrong thing.
They crossed it out. They crossed out the correct response.
Or sometimes they're starting to write something that starts with the same 3 letters and you're like, yes, oh no.
For TFC, when we try to, maybe not top to bottom, but certainly the thousands and the 2000s are harder than usual, you'll quite often get some concern from the other writers that no one will ever answer this. So when the contestants do come up with a correct response to a tough clue, that is especially gratifying. And when there was some skepticism internally, maybe a little bit extra, because the other writers are people.
Yeah, well, I got to attend some of the TOC tapings. I was here for some of the JIT tapings, and one thing I heard was Ken saying that he thought a lot of the material was too hard, and then being so impressed and astounded when the contestants would get it. In those meetings before the Tournament of Champions, what's it like when Ken Jennings,
yeah,
the
goat is like, I think this is too hard.
Sometimes he says, this is too hard, but I'm willing to give it a shot. And we said to him a couple of times, if not now, when?
Right.
Yeah. And then some of it was, scooped up as if they were saying their own name and proved us right. And they did miss a few things that he thought were going to be challenging.
That's okay.
It's okay.
I mean, that's the thing about the bottom of the board focus. We aren't going to put a top to bottom, I hope, too hard category in. But
Right.
if you think the first three are very likely to be answered and the fourth one very probably, then why not take a shot? Because you can't get those, ooh, how did they
Yes.
know
Right.
that moments unless you're willing to have some stand and stares, too.
Yeah.
Well, and you talk about how did they know that, which we've actually incorporated. Billy is over there with a script circling some of the ones that are identified as, wow, we didn't think they would get that, or we wondered if they would. And then we're going to reveal those, as time goes on, as the contestants did get them correct. I have to know, how has the morning meeting changed? Obviously, Alex, a part of that morning meeting for so many years, and now Ken. Has it evolved? Is it very much the same? I know Ken is not a morning person, so he has admitted that he likes to read the scripts the night before your meeting, as opposed to Alex would always come in, crack of dawn to read through them.
That timing doesn't really affect anything. They both get the games read and marked up by 8:30 on tape morning. They approach things differently. Ken is a little more diffident than Alex was, honestly. I think Alex would just say, I don't like this, change it. And Ken will engage us in a dialogue, almost to a fault sometimes, to the point where we want to say, you're the host, you're up there, you've got to say it. If you want to change it, we'll change it.
Yeah, Ken does have a good sensibility of, if he thinks something is going to be missed, he's usually pretty accurate.
One thing I've been wanting to ask you, because it's come up a little bit, in audience questions, especially in the Tournament of Champions, we see the sort of post-James Holzhauer style of play, going for the high-level clues, bouncing around, hunting daily doubles, making big wagers. As the people who made this material that's being, let's say, treated in this way, how do you feel about that approach to play versus kind of the classic, let's call it Jeopardy classic, top to bottom?
It came up during taping this week that there are still times when it would behoove you to go top to bottom, because you would then know what the category was about. And, woe to you if you hit a daily double in a category as the first clue and you don't really know what it's about.
Absolutely.
Of course, our preference would be top to bottom, know what the category is about. It sometimes serves you when it will eliminate answers, but I certainly have given up control over that they're ever going to play top to bottom anymore, and it does seem like they're hunting for daily doubles. And sometimes I think, well, if you have no money, I guess you just want to take it away from the other people. That's on you.
Right.
And there are times when they still are jumping around and the daily doubles are gone, and I don't know why they're still playing that way.
Yeah, I think, especially in single, where there's only, it's like, that's the daily double. It's gone. Now we can go top to bottom. Perhaps the game will continue to evolve that way. But as Ken tells the audience, that's strategically the optimal way to play, is to hunt for the daily doubles. And so you can't expect people to not do that in order for the aesthetic pleasure of, the chronologically ordered Roman Empire category to come through to the home audience or whatever it is.
I still remember the category when I was pregnant. And, had they gone, and I taped the clues over the course of my pregnancy. So I was, barely pregnant all the way to very pregnant. And they bounced around. I don't even think they got to two of them. And I was like, do you know I made that category for 9 months? Could you please just take it in order?
We used to once in a while tell them, you have to take this category in order. Like the CNP person would go up on stage and say that. And
they told them.
Yeah.
And they still didn't follow.
I was going to say, I remember that from my contestant briefing. Like, if there is a category that you have to take in order, we will tell you that. But I guess that those days are...
There should be Jeopardy jail for people who violate the take it in order.
So. Well, I don't want to say we're wrapping up on season 40, because we have many more weeks to go, of course, of regular shows. But as you look back many years that you both have been a part of the show, what excites you still about the future as we will look ahead to the fall and season 41?
I don't have any season 41 specific thoughts. I just feel we're still just scratching the surface of this form, and I know there are areas of knowledge that we're not covering that we could. I know there are ways to do categories that we just are too dim to think of, that hopefully we still will, and that's always the pursuit, and hopefully season 41 will have some of those breakthroughs.
Similarly, I don't have any particular thoughts in mind, but just sitting at the keyboard and having the privilege of writing these clues, I still have so much fun writing my own categories and going over the other writers' categories. It's just a pleasure.
Well, for so many years, I sat in the front row, of the audience behind you, admiring you. I'm lucky enough to now sit beside you on the judges' table. I consider it such an honor. I look in awe of what you write, of how you work, and I'm just so thankful to be able to share this show we all love so much with two brilliant minds. Thanks for joining us on the pod.
Well, thank you, Sarah. And
Thank you, Sarah.
You've been amazing in your new role. It's been our pleasure to work with you.
Agreed. Well said.
And that brings us to the end of today's show. We'll be back next week to highlight the rest of the TOC quarterfinal games plus our first semifinal. That all kicks off today, starting with 13-game champion Ray Lalonde back against 3-game champion Melissa Clapper and our Celebrity Jeopardy winner Ike Barinholtz. So be sure to tune in.
We'll also be speaking with Jeopardy writer Marcus Brown. I'm really looking forward to that. I hope you join us then. See you next week.
See you then.
For more great Jeopardy videos,
hit the subscribe button below.